Have you ever played a game where you're blindfolded and need to move from one place to another? Being in the dark is tough. It's best to have someone who can assist. Welcome to Mornings with Bishop Robert. Thanks for joining me. You know, I do this for you. My goal is to introduce people to the Jesus they never knew and help them get to know him and his word personally and better. So if our time together today speaks to your heart, let me invite you to like, subscribe, and also share this with a friend. You know, nothing replaces the favor of God, his deliberate blessing on your life. It's one thing to have sufficient preparation to take advantage of the opportunities you do see. I mean, there are plenty of things you can do to prepare yourself to take full advantage of an opportunity and its benefits. But no one can take advantage of opportunities they do not see. When you operate in the favor of God, he will open doors that you'd otherwise miss. He'll make connections that you would never have made. He'll give you wisdom to understand things that would have been beyond your comprehension. In fact, even beyond your imagination. As the creator and operator of the entire universe, God has unlimited access to unlimited resources for unlimited use. There is literally nothing he cannot open before you and place in your hands if he desires to do so. And when a person's ways please the Lord, that person walks in the favor of God. Today's verse says, we walk by faith and not by sight. And there's the challenge. Walking in the favor of God is not a comfortable experience. I mean, you'd think walking in the favor of God would bring great comfort, and don't get me wrong, it has many, many benefits. But the one thing it is not is comfortable. And that's because we can't see where we're going. By definition, walking by faith cannot be a comfortable process. It always keeps you outside of your abilities, beyond your capabilities, extended beyond the resources you have in hand, and dealing with things that are utterly beyond your personal control. It's a place of reliance on the move of God to accomplish the will of God. Because we are who we are, our observation and understanding of situations is never 100% correct. So we constantly come across issues and problems where we feel as if God ought to act in one certain way or another. We look at the current situation and the current issue, and we believe we understand the perfect outcome. But we don't. In fact, we very seldom do. We must come to the place where we trust what God does and doesn't do. Because he is who he is. He sees things we do not. He understands much more than we are even capable of comprehending. He sees the end from the beginning. He understands what must be worked into the life of a person in order for them to accomplish the purposes that will fulfill their lives. Well, sometimes these things, they're on dark paths. Sometimes there are situations fraught with challenge and difficulty. A loving father doesn't try to solve every problem for his child. Our Heavenly Father understands that his child must develop internal strength, internal skills. In order to mature, children have to develop their own skills. And as you learn to trust him, you do develop these elements in your life. He works in you and forms the skills and abilities to fulfill your calling faithfully and consistently. Then he allows you to walk into situations that will test the levels of skill which you possess. These tests will develop and hone them even further. And after you pass these tests, well, you'll move into larger and greater levels. But the tests aren't for God. Tests are for you. They allow you to see what God has done in you so that you have confidence to step into larger and greater things for him. One must recognize that there's a time for teaching and a time for testing. Yeah, there's a time when God will be speaking tenderly to you There are times when he'll open things for your understanding and amaze you with his wisdom and his strength. And there are times where he'll show you the amazing things he's capable of and bring you into things that he's designed for you to do. In the book of Ephesians, the Apostle Paul says, God has created good works in advance for us to walk in them, and that he's faithfully prepared us to walk in those works and equipped us with the very gifts we need to do them. But as surely as there's a time for teaching, there's also a time for testing. Testing is about knowing the skills that you're supposed to be able to practice. You need to be tested. This is in order for you to see the skills you've developed. He already knows. You need to learn and understand. You know, I discipled a young man for a decade or so. Now he's grown and he's become a physician. In medical school, there were several times when his teachers would explain the intricacies of certain medical procedures to him. They'd allow him to watch them as these procedures were done. Then they'd allow him to help. Finally, he'd be asked to do them under a supervising eye. And during that supervised observation, they'd give him encouragement, they'd give direction, they'd suggest things based on their experience as mature physicians, allowing him to get the benefit of their skill. But then came the time for the test. There had to come a time when he could demonstrate that he had in his possession the necessary skills to accomplish the procedures successfully without their intervention. In those times, he got no assistance from his professors. They simply stood back and observed, silently. It's a difficult lesson to walk through, but it's a necessary step for maturity. During the time of testing, the teacher is always silent. So the key is this: never forget in the darkness what you learned in the light. When you go through one of these times of testing, it might appear that God has left you. The close relationship, the wisdom, the insight, him speaking directly into your heart, all these things will stop. And you might wonder where God's gone. Well, the truth is, he hasn't gone anywhere. He's standing right there, watching you. Pass the test. And when you do, you'll move on to higher levels of operational capacity. You'll move into greater places of responsibility and leadership. You'll be given access to touch more lives. You have the opportunity to demonstrate his glory and his power in more and greater situations. God hasn't placed the desire of nations in our hearts to tease us. When he said, go into all the world and make disciples of all nations, he wasn't joking. He meant what he said. And therefore, he'll prepare the willing ones to accomplish the task. That task requires preparation. It requires the favor of God. That task, that incredible task, requires that we walk by faith. And as we do, he's pleased. Because we're walking into those things for which we were created. We're stepping into the things that fulfill our very purpose. That requires faith. And without faith, it's impossible to please him, because without faith, the only resources we have are ours, not his. And you can be sure of this: our resources and skills are insufficient to win the world to Christ. His resources are necessary. So keep God happy. Learn to walk by faith. Hey, as you go, can I ask you to help me introduce people to the Jesus they never knew and help them get to know him and his word personally and better? Please like this video. Helps more people see it. Then click follow or subscribe so we can get together every day. And one more thing. Please do share this video with a friend. Because as you do, well, you're part of the team, touching hearts all over the world with the love of Jesus. Thanks for helping.